Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. It is May 28th on a Thursday. Club going up on a Thursday.
What's up, man? Dude, I am so sick of this weather, and it just started.
Oh my gosh, humidity sucks. We're from the Northeast, so when it gets warm out, it doesn't get good warm. It gets gross warm.
Right.
I guess the East Coast is all gross warm.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm still stuck in my house, too, so.
I guess they would call it a tropical climate.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is Thursday, March 28th, like I already said. We got a lot to get to in this episode. We're going to go into part 2 of ADP analysis. We wanted to take a quick moment to make the fine announcement. I did tell Rick this time.
You did.
I told him before the show what the announcement was going to be. So that's.
I'm very surprised you actually said it, because I thought we were just going to start the show.
Yeah, and then I was just going to say it. I mean, I think you wanted me to.
I kind of low-key a little bit.
Yeah. So our very large announcement is a big step for the Fantasy Champions as a brand. We are announcing our very first draft guide.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting stuff. So now you can purchase our thoughts on everything draft this year.
Yeah.
Pre-orders for this will start on June 1st at $25 a piece. This is for redraft. There is no daily fantasy and there is no dynasty stuff in this, by the way. So if you purchase it for that and then get horribly confused, then I'm sorry. So pre-orders start June 1st at $25. That goes up when we launch the draft guide to $35. The launch date for it is July 1st. And you might be curious about what is in this. We got full rankings. We're going to give you breakouts, busts, player draft values, player breakdowns, draft sheets, and all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be amazing, and you should probably get it. Be sure to purchase soon before the price goes up in July, and tell your friends if you want to lose your fantasy championship.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here it is. Draft guide. Yeah. Here we come. A lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work is going to go into this, and I hope you guys are definitely interested in it.
Yeah, and we'll remind you every single week.
Yeah, we will.
Be sure to, before we jump into the main segment, be sure to do the following. Check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at the FFChamps, on Instagram at the Fantasy Champions. Like us at facebook.com/thefantasychampions. You can subscribe wherever you're listening right now. If you're listening on YouTube, please leave a comment below. And share this podcast with your friendonis.
Hopefully you don't call them friendonis.
Yeah. Seriously.
I really hope that.
So let's jump right into ADP analysis. Today we're going to go through rounds 9 through 15. Yep. And if we have time, we will do, we'll do some undrafted guys you might be looking at on the waiver wire. So let's start with round number 9. We have some interesting players. I mean, you're starting to get into the 30s in terms of running backs and wide receivers off the board. Yep. This is where you're going to start seeing a lot more, I don't want to say sleeper tight ends, but like tight ends that aren't as highly valued as the top 6 start coming off the board here, and a lot of quarterbacks will probably come off the board at this point. We already have 10 quarterbacks and 10 tight ends at this point, but so this is where you're going to start seeing that. This is, for me, the second half of the draft is probably the most crucial. Like, I really like rounds 3 through 6. They're probably my favorite rounds outside of the first, obviously. But
you just like every round of the draft.
I really do. Every single time.
I like the draft too.
The feeling of putting that sticker on the draft board with your guy's name on it is just absurd. But anyway, but the back half of the draft is really a way to add some depth to your team. Some of these guys might not start on your team at all during the season, but they're guys you can hold on to. Potentially, maybe they break out, maybe they don't, but they're definitely going to be guys that you're going to be wrapping into trades. So they need to be valuable. Once I get to this point, I usually wait, and I don't want to stick to this. If something frees itself up at the tight end of the quarterback position, I will take it. But generally speaking, I like to wait. We talked about this before. I like to wait until rounds 12 to 15 to draft a quarterback and a tight end. Just because you can get way more value. But every other round I'm drafting a wide receiver and a running back. And after you got your base position set at wide receiver, running back, and flex, you're basically just drafting best available. Don't go, oh my God, I need 2 running backs on my bench. I need 2 wide receivers on my bench. I need a backup tight end and a backup. There's no such thing as backups. Draft for value in these rounds. Because if you do, you're going to get guys that people value. So let's talk about it. Anything interesting in this section for you?
So, I mean, for me, this is, like you said, you would start taking quarterbacks and tight ends in the 12th to 15th round. For me, I'd probably start looking at them in the 9th round. So it's a little earlier. And it's like this.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I don't know that I never see guys that I really want at this point.
Yeah, this round, I don't know if I would. Deandre Swift's an interesting guy. I don't know, is 9th round a little too early for you, for Deandre Swift?
I feel like for Swift, I don't think it's early, but I don't know what you're getting out of Swift at this point.
To me, he's got a lot of upside, though, because I think
he's got
Carry
upside.
Gets hurt, I think Swift becomes like.
But so here's kind of the situation for me with Deandre Swift is that if you spend a 9th round draft selection on him, maybe I'll say it's a little bit of a reach, because if you spend a 9th round draft selection on him early in the season, he's not going to have the starting role. Now, some people in the fantasy community believe that, but for me, there's no way he starts week 1.
I agree. I think Carry on week 1 will probably get more work than Swift.
I might have flipped on that from a take in the past I had. But anyway, I think that Carry On's going to start early on. And then you'll see Swift. I think you might see the same thing with Jonathan Taylor too. But you'll start to see the situation kind of flip midway through the season. But for me, here's what's going to happen. The DeAndre Swift people are going to draft him in the 9th round because they're excited in redraft. Right, they're going to get excited. And then he's not going to play well for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. You're either going to be able to snatch him up on a trade, or you're going to be able to pick him up off the waiver wire after somebody else drops him. So to me, it's like, foresee that, understand that that's going to happen, and you can draft him here and then not trade him and hold on to him for the majority of the season until he gets that starting role, right? Or you could let somebody else draft him, waste their 9th round pick, and you know what I mean, wait half the season until he's on the waiver wire. So it's really up to you. I don't think it's a bad selection, but I think if you're sitting there at the top of the 9th round, looking at every single one of these players, and I don't know, I think that there's more value in this round than that guy.
Yeah, Swift, like I think 9th round might be a little too early for him. But then again, like I'm looking at some of these guys, I think his value is probably late 9th, early 10th. Right now he's top of the 9th in this 10 team kind of that we're looking at. It's like 87th overall. I don't think that's like too far out of the ballpark for him. He's just somebody who's interesting. Like I wouldn't mind having him on my team this year, just because I do think he's gonna get work eventually. I don't know when he is, but I think he will eventually. So he's an intriguing guy who could pay off big time at the end for you. Rob Gronkowski, I want to know like what your thoughts about on Gronk in Tampa. Like would you take him at with 87? Because that's his 80.
No.
Okay.
I seeing what he was with Tom Brady the last time he played. I don't see, like he's gonna score touchdowns. He's probably gonna be a low end tight end 1, but so tight end 8 off the board is not bad. It's right where he probably should go, but for me, I don't see him as to me, you're going to draft him, and he's not going to be a week-to-week starter. He's going to be a guy that has great weeks and then has not so great weeks.
That's every tight end, though, other than Kelce and Kittle.
I know, but what do the great weeks look like for Gronk? You know what I mean? And when I'm talking about, like, when I had Waller last year, Waller would have bad weeks, but those bad weeks were like 5 or 6 points. I think Gronk's bad weeks are going to be 1 or 2 points.
His bad weeks are going to be real bad.
And they're not. And like, it's basically, to me, here's what's going to happen with Gronk. The games he catches a touchdown, you're going to be happy. The games he doesn't catch a touchdown, you're going to be sad. You know what I mean? And I just don't want to invest my draft capital into a guy that's going to bust more than he's going to perform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair argument.
It's not bad to have him on your team to trade to a moron who might be a Patriots fan or a Bucks fan. But I think, I don't know. I just, it's not an exciting pick. It's not a bad pick, but it's...
Yeah,
like, I guess the value is right where it should be, but
I think there's a chance, he could have a better year than he did his last year at the Patriots, just because of him taking the year off. I think that definitely helped him. But
by the way, hold on. I want to note to the Fantasy Champions community, you probably saw our video not being there for about 10 minutes.
Oh,
forgot to hit record on my cameras. Yeah. What were you saying?
I was talking about Gronk and how, like, I think he might be better.
Yeah.
Than he was with New England in the last year, just because he took the year off and his body had some time to heal. But I do agree with you. His bad weeks are going to be bad. Like, they might use him with the game plan to just block some weeks. Yeah. And not use him too much, and he'll get you like 2 fantasy points.
I think the other thing,
and then the next week he'll get you 18 to 20.
I think the other thing to note on Gronk too is that Mike Evans is there. Chris Godwin's there. OJ Howard's there. Yeah,
sure.
They got this new running back. I think he can pass catch. Got Keyshawn Johnson. I don't know. I have no idea, but Keyshawn Vaughn. Sorry, what did I say?
Keyshawn Johnson.
Yeah. Anyway, close enough. So anyway, but Brady's gonna have other options to throw to. Yes, he has a repertoire with Gronk, but he's also shown that when he's had talent, he doesn't need to throw it to Gronk. Yeah. Gronk is this is the way, because we are Patriots fans and we watched him for many years. This is the way that Gronk kind of plays in the offense. He is a great target because he has a great catch radius and he's a great receiver, but he's more of a guy to put across the middle.
Yep.
And pull the linebackers and the safeties in so that it can open the outside receivers up. And or the slot receiver.
He just runs consistent seam routes.
Right.
That's just kind of what it is.
So, I mean, he has a bigger route tree than just straight, but you get the point. His job is to pull away from the other guys. So that's what he's going to do because he's big, he's bulky, and if you leave him open, he's going to catch the ball and run you over. But I think for me, I don't see the target share for him being like there, especially in the Arians offense. I know it's going to have a Brady spin. I know Brady likes to throw to tight ends, but it still is the Arians offense. And Arians doesn't usually target the tight end, or his system doesn't usually have a lot of routes run for the tight end position. So I think the excitement for Rob Gronkowski should be tempered.
Sure.
Which right now it is. But when we start getting into draft season, we know people are going to be crazy. So
yeah. Would you take him over Cook or Higbee?
Yeah. Both of them, I'd probably take them over those two, yeah.
Yeah, see, I would too. I don't know about Evan Ingram, but...
Yeah, Ingram should be ahead of all three of those.
Because Ingram's in this round, too.
Yeah. That's actually... We'll talk about that. That's a great value right there in and of itself. I did want to note some guys. I think Brandon Cooks in this round, in the 10th... was
End of the 10th. Early 10, late 9th.
Yeah. Early 10, late 9th. Perfect value right there. That is, he's the wide receiver one on that team. He's going to get a decent target share. I mean, I would not be surprised if he passes 120 targets, stays healthy the whole season. I don't know why he's in the 9th and 10th round.
Yeah, he's the wide receiver 35. Right now.
Dude, that's crazy.
I thought he'd be like wide receiver like 25. Yeah. Or around that. Like he'd be at least in the late 20s.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I figured he'd be. So having him at 35, that's pretty nice. Honestly, yeah, I agree. That's great value.
I like Cooks.
What was it?
I said, go after Cooks.
Oh, yeah, go after Cooks. I like Sony Michele on this round, too.
Okay, I was going to ask you about Sony Michele.
Yeah, I think at this point it's solid value for him. I would take Cam Akers, too, just because I understand the Rams might go RBBC, which would suck, but that he has the upside and the chance to be the main guy in that backfield. So I think it would be worth a pick, I guess. I'd probably still take Sony over him, though. It might be around too early.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Swift, where he has upside.
I think the amount that the Patriots are going to run, this is very similar to a David Montgomery situation where I think that Sony Michele is going to get a lot of work. He won't get a lot of passing game work, but I think that he's going to get a lot of work on the ground, and they still have a good offensive line. And, as long as Bill Belichick's the head coach of that team, they're probably going to run a decent offense. So, and they're not going to be great this year by any means, but Sony Michele has an opportunity, and in the 10th round, 9th, 10th round, you're probably okay taking him. Then Damian Williams going to the 10th round. Clyde really damaged him. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of confused on him because he did have a great end of the season last year. I said that if they didn't do anything at the running back position, that Dame would be the guy. And I would draft him as an RB2 in fantasy leagues. But I at this point, obviously, they drafted Clyde. Clyde's going to be the guy. Yep. I don't know what the role is for Damian Williams there. He'll probably get work early in the season, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is probably going to be there. I've talked about how there's a possibility that he does get cut. I don't think that there's a team in the NFL that picks him up that I'd be excited about him fantasy-wise. So at this point, I think Damian Williams is probably somebody you should just stay away from altogether.
I mean, I don't know
if he's there in KC.
I'm not trying to draft him.
Yeah.
I would take Swift or Akers or Sony Michele over him.
Okay, let's
for their upside.
Let's move to round 10. I want to note, don't draft a defense in this round.
If you're drafting a defense in the 10th round, don't.
So we got some interesting players. Carson Wentz probably is one of the most interesting in this round.
Yeah.
There's not much. This looks like one of those rounds where you're just like, okay.
See, I don't know, because
I don't like any of the guys in this round, to be honest with you.
I don't like
besides Will Fuller.
I love Will Fuller in this round. I don't like John Brown or Philip Lindsay.
Yeah.
I think Ronald Jones is worth a pick at this point.
Okay.
Because Tom Brady's not going to throw the ball 50 times a game.
Last year, so many times.
I know he did, but he's still gonna. I think he's gonna be the guy ahead of Keyshawn Vaughn. He's gonna be the starting running back on an offense that'll probably be very solid.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely worth a pick here. And he's clearly not getting overvalued. I thought Ronald Jones would be going in the 6th round.
Yeah.
But he's not. So I like that there. I like Matt Breida. I don't know if you do.
No.
To the Dolphins. So the reason I say that is just because in a standard league, not as much, but if you're playing in a half PPR or PPR league,
he's not a great pass catcher.
He's better than Jordan Howard, though.
Well, yeah, that's true, but not by much.
He's going to be the pass catching back.
He averaged all of last season about maybe 1.5 targets a game.
Yeah, but he also wasn't he wasn't on the field a lot all of last season.
I can pull it to 2018 and check.
Sure. Go ahead. But
he averaged maybe 2.5 targets a game that season.
How many carries a game was he getting though?
In 2018 or 2019?
Whatever one you just looked up for the 2.5 targets.
Hold on, 2018. That was when he was being used the most. He had 153 carries on the season and missed 2 games. He was averaging about, I want to say, 12 carries a game. So he's not a pass catching back. I don't think that's how Miami's going to use their running backs.
Okay.
To be honest,
how do you think they're going to see?
They're going to pound the rock with Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, kind of similar to what San Francisco was doing, and that's about it. They didn't really target the running back position all that much last year anyway.
If they do that, then I don't want. They didn't have a running back last year though at all.
Well, they did for half the year, but they don't.
But they didn't use him though.
Miami was so bad, and I see the improvements there, but because Jordan Howard is hated on, but he's actually not a bad passing game back either. So
yeah, I think Braid is better though in the passing game. I mean, he can also turn screens into we saw.
I don't see it. I don't see Breida.
I mean, if they use him the way you think they're going to use him, then gosh, no, I don't want him.
He's worthless.
But if they use him more the way I think they're going to use him, then I think his value is fine there.
Okay. I would definitely say stay away from Phillip Lindsay.
Yeah, like stay away from Lindsay. I don't love Christian Kirk.
Okay, I was just about to ask you about him, Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I think there's too many weapons on the team. And he's going to be okay. He's not going to be bad. I don't know how he's probably fine in this round.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just not somebody I'm going out of my way to draft. Like, I'd way rather have Will Fuller in this round than Christian.
Interesting.
Kirk.
I mean, Christian Kirk is still. For Christian Kirk, it depends on how much. Like for me, I statted him as the wide receiver 2 for Arizona. It depends on how much they use Larry Fitzgerald, to be honest with you. So if they decide that they're just going to continue using Larry Fitzgerald like they did last year, then I think Hopkins is going to take all of Christian Kirk's targets, and Christian Kirk's going to fall to 70 targets for the entire season. But I don't think that. I think they're going to. Christian Kirk's their young receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is on the other side. I really don't think that they're going to be utilizing Larry Fitzgerald too much. But we'll have to see. I mean, they run 3 wide receiver sets almost 50% of the time. So, or 3 to 5 wide receiver sets, I would say 80% of the time. So, I mean, Christian Kirk's going to be on the field. I don't know if he can reach 100 targets. I think 2 wide receivers on that team are going to reach 100 targets. It's just a matter of whom. And I think in the 10th round, Christian Kirk's a great value. I don't think you're missing out on Christian Kirk.
See, I don't know how they're going to use Fitzgerald.
It's not exciting, but we're in the 10th round here, Rick.
Sure. There's some guys I think Ronald Jones and Will Fuller are probably my 2 favorite guys in this round. And honestly, I'd be willing to take Carson Wentz as well.
Okay.
He'd probably be the first quarterback I'd look at and say, I wouldn't mind taking him if he's on the board.
Yeah. He's a guy that Rick's strategy in the past has been to use 10th, 11th round picks on quarterbacks who are veterans and then drafting a kind of breakout guy that might be good, as the season goes along. But I usually just like to take a shot in the dark. I do that with my streaming.
And then just go waiver wire.
Yeah. Let's move on to the 11th round. This has a few more intriguing options for me. I'm interested in, I would say, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of interested in Darryl Henderson, considering that he's literally they drafted Cam Akers in the 4th round.
Sure.
So that's not fantastic draft capital for a running back. They brought him in to obviously do something, but I think Henderson has been there. People were talking about his pass catching work all last offseason, so maybe they can improve upon that. I don't mind Henderson here. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he wouldn't be bad here. I think somebody with the Rams is going to be okay at running back. I just don't know if it's going to be Henderson, Malcolm Brown, Cam Akers. And I do think if they do RBBC, I think it's going to be like the Buccaneers running back situation last year, where it just didn't really matter who they put in.
What's funny is that I don't know. He was okay. I think a lot of the running back problems for Los Angeles last year was not that Todd Gurley and Darrell Henderson sucked or Malcolm Brown, because Malcolm Brown's there too, like you said. Yeah. But it's it wasn't that they sucked. It was just that offensive line was not playing well last year, and the offense wasn't good. So
it was not playing well. But does that change?
I think the offensive line is good. I don't think there's problems there.
You just think they had a bad year?
I think they had the Super Bowl hangover. It happens every time.
That's fair.
I'm not going to say they're going to be good, but it really depends on what's happening inside that offense and stuff like that. So they could have improvements. They could not. Go ahead.
He'd be worth the pick, but I'd actually probably rather take some other running backs in this round.
Interesting. I think there's a lot of players in this round that are There's a lot of good players in this round. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Some good, I guess some really good values you can get in this particular round are, I want to say Marvin Jones, great value.
Sure, yeah.
To Kenny Golladay, who's like a top 4 round guy right now, and Marvin Jones, who they both kind of they would go off in different games in similar ways. And so it's I think Marvin Jones, he's not going to score as many fantasy points as Kenny Golladay, but I think he's going to be
totally worth it. He probably is the best player in this round.
He's probably the best player in this round. Yeah, I would agree. What do you think about Mike Williams?
I don't like Mike Williams.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I was just going to say, the reason why I bring him up is because in the Phillip Rivers offense, and this is the problem with what T.Y. Hilton's going to struggle with this year, Mike Williams was the outside receiver in L.A. He still is, right? Yep. And when Phillip Rivers was there, the guy had an arm about the he couldn't even throw it like 25 yards down the field.
It's like Peyton Manning in his last season.
So Mike Williams just had literally no fantasy value with Phillip Rivers there because he's just not that type of quarterback. He doesn't sling it downfield. Right. I don't know that Tyrod Taylor is going to do that, but I think Herbert, and if Herbert takes over at any point this season, he will sling it to Mike Williams, and he'll be a much better quarterback for Mike Williams than Phillip Rivers ever was.
My problem is I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter.
Yeah.
And in which case Mike Williams has no value. And then if Justin Herbert comes in, he might throw him the ball a little bit, like you said, but it's still a rookie quarterback with Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
So I don't think Mike Williams has a lot of value, to be honest with you.
Okay.
He's a great receiver, but
I would agree. I would tend to agree with that. He's similar to me. Like we didn't talk about Slayton in this round yet either, did we?
No.
I keep forgetting about him because I scroll past his name. But anyway, I think for Mike Williams, he's a guy that I'm intrigued by, but he's similar to Deandre Swift in the context that he's a guy that you could probably just pass on and take somebody that's going to have a better chance at succeeding. And then if the new quarterback Justin Herbert takes over, then you can look into possibly seeing if Mike Williams is an option. But I think he's going to end up on the waiver wire at some point in the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. I think he will.
But anyway, so for me, I did want to bring up Slayton. He actually is he was a rookie last year. He's one of my favorite second-year players. And so in the 11th round, I think it's a great draft pick. The question is, does he end up being the third wide receiver on the team?
Yeah, I think that's a concern.
If he ends up being the third wide receiver on the team behind Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate, then I think it's going to be a tough time for Darius Slayton. He's not going to have a lot of opportunity. But then again, every year there's a wide receiver that starts the season as the third guy and then blows up. So he could be that. He could not be that. I don't remember what draft capital they used to get him, but
he was a late pick. But he had a great rookie year.
He did have a great rookie season. So
he was a 7th round pick.
It depends on what they want to do with him. I don't think it's a bad selection as like a deep selection in your drafts. In a 12 team, you can probably get him in like the 9th, 10th round. And in a 10 team, you can obviously lock him up in the 10th or 11th. And if you get him, I mean, he's not expected to start, by any means, but he's a guy that can has a couple of good weeks you can sell to a team like I did Terry McLaurin last year.
Yeah, he was a 5th round pick by the Giants last year.
Okay, yeah.
With Evan Ingram there too, though, I think there's a chance he could be like the 3rd or 4th option on that team.
Which is scary.
But he could also very well could you see him being also the number 1 receiver on that team too? With I think he could easily be the 4th option, and he could easily be
the first option.
Yeah.
The chances he's the first option are very low.
Yeah,
but it could happen.
It's possible. I mean, because I could see him surpassing Shepard and Golden Tate. I don't think that's impossible.
I think you and I's favorite player in this 11th round is probably J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah,
I would say I don't want to draft. See, I'm starting to get out of the phase of rookie drafts and dynasty and really liking these rookie running backs and wide receivers. And starting to look more at redraft as a whole and be like, okay, how much value do these players actually have year 1 for redraft leagues?
Right.
Dobbins, to me, I'm very, very curious to see how they utilize Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins together. The last time a rookie running back, he was a early second round pick, correct?
Yes.
The last time
he was a late 2nd round pick actually, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
He fell to them though.
The last time that something like this happened to Mark Ingram, it ended up being Alvin Kamara. I don't want to make those comparisons, but if on a team that runs the ball more than anybody in the league, I would think Dobbins is going to get a lot of opportunity. He's not going to be an RB1 this year by any means, but I think he could sneak into that RB2 mid-range to late to mid-range RB2 range next season and surprise a lot of people. So we'll have to see what happens with Dobbins, but I think he fits what they do maybe even more than Mark Ingram does.
Yeah, I love J.K. Dobbins, but for year one, I don't know if he's going to be that great.
Okay.
There's still Gus Edwards is still on that team. Justin Hill is still on that team, although I don't think either guy is going to do much, but they're still on the roster as of right now. Mark Ingram is still on the roster.
Yeah.
And they do run the ball a lot. So just because he's J.K. Dobbins and they run the ball a lot, I'd probably be willing to draft him. And just because of his upside, like somebody gets hurt, he's going to be insane. And, there's always a chance he could be Alvin Kamara. But I think there's just too many bodies there year one. That long-term, like dynasty, I absolutely love J.K. Dobbins. But,
obviously.
For this year, I don't know. I think he is worth a draft pick here, though.
Okay. I would say I'm going to skip some of the thoughts on Keyshawn Vaughn. I'll ask you one last question about this round. Noah Fant, what thoughts?
I loved Noah Fant before the draft. I don't like him as much now. He did have a very good connection with Drew Lock when Drew Lock came in. The problem is Drew Lock is still kind of unproven, and they added Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. So there's some he's got some competition now when it comes to targets. I still like Noah Fant. I think this is a fine spot for him, but I don't love him as much as I did before. I would probably draft him at this spot though.
Okay. We move into, what is this, the 13th round? Yeah. Okay. So, I think for me, we got two defenses in this section. Three defenses. So I don't draft kickers and defenses in drafts, and a lot of people would be like, "Why do you not do that?" And I'm like, because I don't really find it necessary. If you don't draft, last year the Patriots were the best defense by far in all of fantasy football, and they were undrafted.
Yep, and the Bears were the top.
And they didn't work out.
Pick, and they were in like the 8th round.
Don't draft defenses. Try to pick them up off the waiver wire, stream them. Same thing with kickers. You're not going to be able to get the guy in the draft. It's not going to happen. So I just don't draft them all.
So I do draft a kicker, but I wait until like the 15th round.
Yeah.
I don't. I usually.
I just like to draft as much value as I can to trade it away before the season starts. But anyway, so in the 13th round, there's a couple of guys. We got rookie wide receivers who I suggest you just avoid: CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy.
I think CeeDee Lamb actually would be worth a pick here.
I thought that before, but now I'm starting to come down on it.
You're fading on it a little bit. I just think the amount that Dak throws the football. I mean, he threw the ball like 600 plus times last year. With Mike McCarthy coming in, who favors quarterbacks and throwing the ball, I think they're going to throw the ball 600 plus times again this year. I think
that you're only going to see CeeDee Lamb get like 70 targets, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of 600 plus throws that Dak's going to have?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
100 of the targets are going to go to Zeke. 150 of them are going to go to Amari Cooper if he plays the whole season.
That's 250. So
I haven't statted out the Cowboys, but I don't think CeeDee Lamb.
I think CeeDee Lamb's a fantastic value at this point because I actually think he's going to have the same amount as Michael Gallup. Just the amount of times the Cowboys throw the ball.
70 to 100 is probably safe to bet, but I don't think he goes over that. But even that's like a wide receiver 3 to me. High end. Okay. So I don't know if it's worth drafting him. I don't like relying on rookie wide receivers because they end up burning you.
No, you're right. I would agree. But in the 13th round, I think it's a fine pick. And look at what like DK. I think he could be like a DK Metcalf from last year.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else in this round, so I guess.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. Like, there's nothing else. So my favorite player in this round though is by far Matthew Stafford. If I'm sitting in the 13th round, I haven't drafted a quarterback yet. I'm 100% taking Matt Stafford.
Okay.
He was the 3rd ranked quarterback in fantasy before he got hurt last year.
Yep.
He's got a ton of weapons. They added Deandre Swift. The offensive line, they added a few interior guys to improve it. They have TJ Hawkinson fully healthy. They have Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones. Danny Amendola's still on that team. Like, they have pieces, man.
Okay.
And I think taking Matt Stafford in the 13th round is a great value.
All right, let's move on to the 14th round. 2 more rounds to go, my friends. So we had in the last round, I think we had the conversation of Sterling Shepard. We didn't talk about him, but Sterling Shepard was in the 12th round?
Yep.
Or the 13th round? 13th
round.
13th round, sorry.
Was it 13th?
Yeah. So anyway, he I guess in the last 3 rounds you saw Darius Slayton and then Sterling Shepard and now Golden Tate. I really don't know what the Giants wide receiver situation is going to
Nobody
be.
does.
So I at this point I would pick one, and that would be Darius Slayton, and just move on. I don't think we need to be playing around with Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard. I mean, I think both of them are good values. One of them is going to be really good this year.
Right.
But it just matters. By the time we get to August, we'll kind of have a feel about who the wide receiver one's going to be on the team when they actually release their depth charts right before the season starts. So, you can kind of make a logical decision. But at this point, I would say go Slayton and just ignore the other two. I don't think it's a bad value, but.
Yeah, I mean, you pick your poison. Yep. Honestly, one of these guys. I think Shepard might be the best guy, but he gets hurt a lot, and I think he probably will get hurt. So I think that comes down to probably Slayton and Tate, and Tate's the other guy. So I probably agree with you that Slayton is the guy I would take. But it really could honestly be any one of these 3 guys that has a good year. Heck, maybe 2 of them have a good year, depending on how good Daniel Jones is.
Yep.
So if you want to take Tate here in the 14th round, I mean, it's totally fine.
This is a round, too, where I see some of these guys moving up. I really like a couple of them, but TJ Hawkinson would probably be my guy in the draft at this point. I thought he might go ahead of Noah Fant, but what they drafted him to be, I said last year avoid him, and he had a couple of really boom games, but he was bad for most of the years because he's a rookie tight end. Those boom games, though, he looked absurd. There were some games where he didn't catch a touchdown, but he dropped week 1 he had a great game, and I was like, everyone was like, you're an idiot for not telling me to draft TJ Hawkinson.
And then he had a bad rest.
And then he had a bad rest of the year, but he had 2 or 3 really big games.
Yeah.
He had some games where he just completely dropped a bunch of touchdown passes. He had multiple games where he dropped 2 touchdown passes. So I don't know if that's concerning or that's just rookie jitters. But I think year 2 for TJ Hawkinson, he's going to be absurd. I really do believe it. I think he's going to be really good, and I think this is one of those tight ends that you get in the late rounds, 14th, 15th round, maybe the 13th if that's where he ends up going. But if Hawk is between 12 to 15, you have to draft him. It's easy money there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's probably my favorite player in this round. I do also really like Mecole Hardman.
Yeah, I was going to say that next. Yeah, Hardman is
taking that jump. He was a rookie last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, he was. I saw some of the efficiency stats on this kid, and he was.
If
something happens to Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman is.
Oh gosh,
he's the new Tyreek Hill.
Even if Tyreek Hill is there, though, they don't really have an established second wide receiver. Like their second wide receiver is Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
So they don't really have it varies week to week. Sammy Watkins is that guy in the past.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be that anymore. I think he's kind of on the verge of retirement, to be honest with you. So I think Mecole Hardman is going to take that spot and really have some big weeks this year. I think he's for sure worth a 14th round pick.
Yeah.
And do you like Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I do like Baker Mayfield this year. He does kind of concern me at the quarterback position because what I've come to learn is that some of the best quarterbacks in fantasy football obviously have the floor of rushing. He ran it 28 times last year for 141 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. So that's a small floor. At the early part of the season, didn't rush. Back half of the season, he was rushing about, I want to say maybe 2 to 4 times a game, which is not great. But so he can get rushing yards, but I don't. A lot of it's going to have to be him throwing 35 plus touchdowns with 4,500 yards is what he's going to have to do. And I find that really hard for him to do. He does have the 4th easiest schedule among quarterbacks in fantasy football this year. So I think for Baker Mayfield, it's to me in the 14th round as a 14th quarterback off the board, worth the risk.
Yeah, so I mean, due to partly because of his schedule, and I think the Browns are just going to be a better team. I think he'll have a much more efficient season.
Yeah.
My only problem with Mayfield is he didn't throw the ball a lot last year, and
he's in an offense that's not going to run.
Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, they're not going to run a lot of pass plays.
With the Vikings, he ran the ball an insane amount, and if that offense is like Minnesota's, and I don't even think it's going to be that extreme. But let's say it is. If it's that extreme, then no matter what Mayfield does, he's not going to have a good fantasy season. He could be extremely efficient, and just because he doesn't throw the ball a lot or run the ball, he's not going to have an insane year. He's going to be kind of a Kirk Cousins game manager. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, because they have Odell and Jarvis Landry and Austin Hooper.
It might be different. I mean, for the Vikings, they had obviously their head coach. What's his name? Oh, it escaped me.
Why is it Mike Zimmer?
Mike Zimmer. So he's a defensive guy, but they brought in an assistant coach who's offensive minded. He used to coach the Houston Texans when they had I'm just forgetting names today, but anyway, they had an assistant coach and he loves to pound the rock. He loves to run the football. So I don't know. What I don't know is it what he was doing on the Viking. I really want to know who the Browns, or the Vikings play caller was last year. Was it?
I think it was
Stefanski, or was it the other guy? But even I think the assistant coach has more influence over Stefanski in terms of game plan offensively than the offensive coordinator would, because that's what they brought this assistant coach to come in and do. So I don't know that Stefanski's going to walk in and say, "Hey, we need to run the football as much as we did last year with the Vikings." And if they do, that's great for Nick Chubb. And not so good for Baker and Kareem Hunt, but not good for Baker Mayfield. The concern here is, or not the concern, but what the expectation is for me is that they're going to pass it a little more than they did than the Vikings. Because I think the flip in the middle of the season the Vikings had when they started throwing the football more, realizing that you have to throw the football in the modern NFL.
Yeah.
They basically flipped it in the middle of the season. I think that was Stefanski, not him saying, "Oh, we need to switch it around." But when they decide, "Hey, we need to throw the football more," I think that was Stefanski. He's a younger coach. So, I don't know. It's going to be a lot less rigid when it comes to rushing the football. I think they're going to pass it a little more than they usually did when he was with the Vikings. Yeah. But is it enough to get Mayfield into that QB1 conversation? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be. I do agree with you. They're going to throw the ball more than Minnesota did.
Yeah.
But are they going to throw the ball more than the Browns did last year?
No idea.
See, I don't know if they'll throw the ball.
Yeah. They didn't like to throw the football.
Or maybe as
much,
but
either.
maybe. Yeah, but
I just think everything's going to be more efficient than it was last year because everyone's going to be on the same page. So we'll see how because the other thing too is that if they're slinging it, they're slinging it. They're not just going to run the football the whole time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. We'll have to see.
I think he's worth a pick.
I think he's worth a pick too. My favorite player in this round is Harrison Butker. No.
Do this is the 14th round?
Right? You're taking him. Yeah.
I'd probably take him.
Anyway, so I do like Alshon Jeffrey here. Don't think it's a bad pick. I think with the new rookie wide receiver coming in, they're probably fading him a little bit more. But apparently he is ready to go for this season. He wants to get back to wide receiver 1 status. So we'll see if Alshon Jeffrey can do that. But I think in the 14th round, it's worth a shot.
Definitely worth a shot.
Let's move into the 15th round, 15th and final round. It's 15th round, right?
So
I'm confusing myself.
So the thing with the 15th round, there's
it goes all the way down.
Yeah, I'd probably take someone a little off the board here. A lot of people you might consider honestly Joe Burrow. A lot of people are going to draft Joe Burrow. I think Curtis Samuel would be worth a 15th round pick. Who is right now going undrafted. And I know they added Robbie Anderson.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is another guy. I think it would be a good 15th round pick.
Personally, if I wasn't able to get Hawk in the 13th, 14th round, this is probably where I would draft Mike Gesicki.
Yep, I was just going to say Mike Gesicki. He's probably the best player.
So, out of the 10, because we're going up to 140, 15 rounds. So I would say that Mike Gesicki is probably the safe bet. But, I mean, Burrow's not a bad idea. I think a lot of people outside of that, or Daniel Jones, like this is where you're going to see, personally for me, this is where a lot of people draft their tight ends. I mean, where they draft their kickers and defenses. And for me, I'm like, a lot of the guys after the 150th average pick are probably going to go, by the wayside. So
yeah, I'd probably go kicker here, to be honest.
Yeah, but for me, like I usually save my quarterbacks. There is one guy that is very intriguing in this grouping, and he's probably only going to be on the board early in the late 14th, early 15th right now. Deontay Johnson. That would probably be that would top my list of what I would want to do in the 14th, 15th round. Is try to snag
Jameson
Deontay Johnson.
Is okay. He was actually late. He was the 14th round pick. We skipped over him, but he'll probably be a 15th round pick, like somewhere in that range. His ADP is 140. So, but I think Jamison Crowder is definitely okay. Without Robbie Anderson there, a full year of Sam Darnold healthy. When Sam Darnold was healthy, Crowder would get a lot of targets. He's not going to get a lot of touchdowns. So
you have a secret love with Jamison Crowder. You picked him up off the waiver wire last year when he had 10 targets week 1 and you started sweating.
Yeah.
Since then you're like, he gets a lot.
Well, just look at what he did last year with Darnold in the lineup. He was really solid.
Oh yeah, he was good.
And you take out Robbie Anderson, a healthy Sam Darnold for a full season. I'm not saying draft Jamison Crowder in the 5th round but I think as a 15th round pick, I think Jamison Crowder is a good option.
So another guy that I just wanted to mention, because we're going to end the show here, but Tony Pollard was a guy that came in and out last year. He had some weeks where you were like, okay, because the Cowboys at some weeks just blew teams out and Pollard would come in. Pollard had a little bit of a role behind Ezekiel Elliott in that offense. Mike McCarthy comes in. He's more of a guy that likes to run an RBBC. They got a second running back in Tony Pollard, who was decent last year. I honestly think if you're in a PPR league, he might be a decent play here in the 15th round, just because he has that ceiling with the pass catching. He's going to come in. He's going to steal reps from Zeke. They're going to use him a little bit more than they did before. So I don't see him as an elite top tier, as long as Zeke is sitting in front of him, he's never going to be an RB1. He's just not. He might not even reach RB2, but I think if he ends up being a low to mid-range RB2 this year, then getting him in the 15th round is a borderline steal. Yeah,
especially if you have Zeke. Have an early
handcuff. As a handcuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's week 1's kind of early to have a handcuff, but Tony Pollard's probably the best handcuff in fantasy.
Not a problem.
Alexander Madison.
Not a problem to draft him.
Yeah.
Stay aware. But that'll do it for our ADP analysis. We talked about a little bit more in the 15th round in terms of extending the list down, but that'll be our list for ADP analysis. And our last episode for May. It's starting to crank up. June. So I think it was Sleepers this month, I believe it is. That's our episodes for this month. Sleepers.
Yeah.
So it's getting real. It's starting to get real.
Dude,
two months until August. Let's go.
It's about to be June.
Yeah.
Wow.
Things flew.
Yeah. We're in the swing of fantasy football now.
Yep. Get prepared. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to check out our website, The Fantasy Champions, and check out on June 1st our draft guide, thefantasychampions.com/draft guide. See you on Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.